Welcome everyone to Keeping It Real with Phil. Just got a little video here on spinnerbait fishing. How I use spinnerbaits to improve my fishing on the water, and when I do it, the times of year I do it, and the different types of cover that I like to fish a spinnerbait. First off, let me say please subscribe to my channel so that you can get any notifications on when I do another video. Definitely looking at getting some on the water stuff for you guys. This is kind of an off season time for me during the holiday here, but there's never really an off season time much here in Texas. We start the seasons very early. I think my first tournament is January 7th on Rayburn. So, here shortly I'm going to have to start pre-fishing for that. And, one of the things I like to do in the pre-spawn is I like to slow roll a spinnerbait. And I fish a spinnerbait different at different times of the year. And it's really got to do with the depth of water that I'm wanting to fish, how fast I'm wanting to fish the spinnerbait, and how aggressive the fish are. So in colder water, the fish are going to want that spinnerbait a little slower, and in warmer water, they're probably going to want a little faster. And in stained water, they're going to want a little more thump, and in clear water, they're going to want a little less thump and maybe fished a little faster so that they can't really get a good bead on what it is. Being easy on the eyes sometimes is a big thing with spinnerbaits. Not always. If there's a high bluebird sun up there, is a silver blade going to be the best? Sometimes it's better to tailor that down a little bit on the size and also on the color. And I actually like to use gold blades when it's sunny, and I like to use silver blades when it's cloudy. So a little different than maybe what some people do. But just kind of starting off with the seasons, and in the pre-spawn, the post-spawn, the fall time of the year, and the summer, is when I might choose to throw a spinnerbait. So pretty much year round. But there is a time there in the summer where I don't use a spinnerbait as much, and that's when them fish really go out deep and maybe get on brush piles and stuff like that. There's some other lures that are a better choice to use. So, but this is about spinnerbait fishing, and I just want to cover by season and by cover. When do I use a spinnerbait? So, let's start off with the fall time. In the fall time, the fish a lot of times are feeding up for the winter. They're chasing shad, they're chasing bait, and a lot of times that bait is small. And when that happens, I like to go with a more, with the double willows, ride it a little, reel it a little faster, ride it a little higher, and I'll throw it at schooling fish even. So, sometimes it's a really good bait, especially in that 1/4 ounce to 3/8 ounce, size, to throw at schooling fish. And even if them fish start to get up really even shallower up on lay downs logs and stuff, I'll still utilize that 1/4 ounce or that 3/8 ounce, and I'll go with a more shad pattern color. So, I really like the tandem Colorado kicker, silver kicker with a white blade and either a white skirt or some kind of shad colored skirt in the fall time. And that's pretty much when the water's clear or just slightly stained, which we have a lot of times here on Rayburn, Toledo during this time of year. If the water's a little more dingy, if I'm up north or if I'm at a different lake where the water's a little more dingy, then I tend to like to use, a tandem, painted blade, whether it's, chartreuse or orange. I really like an orange kicker in a little more stained water with that gold blade. But I'll still use that 3/8, to a 1/4 ounce spinnerbait, because I'm usually fishing it up shallow at that point. And then, then I might even pair that with, if I want to slow it down, if it's later on in the fall and the temperature's getting a little cooler, I might pair that with a grub. So, I'll put a trailer on it at times. And in the fall time, a lot of time I find, especially, in the Oklahoma lakes and places like that, that a single tail grub like this, paired, on a chartreuse white with that orange kicker and that gold blade is a deadly combination. So I'll do that a lot when I'm in that situation. Um, Also, when we get into the late winter and we get into where it's starting to be pre-spawn, then I'll slow down. I'll get in that little deeper water when the fish start moving up into the drains. Then I'll start going to the heavier tandem spinnerbait, and I do make my own spinnerbaits. Um, I make a lot of my own spinnerbaits, and this happens to be one of them that I like to use, which is basically a Fire Tiger skirt trailer with a tandem Colorado kicker and a number 6 or number 5 willow leaf blade on the back. And what I do with that, like I say, is I'll throw it out there, let it fall in that 8 to 12 foot of water in the drains. And, some people may, sometimes an umbrella may be the best thing, but there's times when this spinnerbait is the best thing. And so you have to experiment with it. But when it's on, it's on. And I'll throw it out there and I'll keep my line tight while it's falling. And as soon as that line goes slack, I'll pop it off the bottom and I'll slow roll it back to the boat. So I like a Fire Tiger color at early time in the year in the pre-spawn. And I also just like, and this happens to be, that's one I built, and this happens to be a Stanley spinnerbait right here, which is pretty much the only other spinnerbait that I throw that I don't build is a Stanley Vibra Shaft. And I love the wedge blades that come with the Stanley. And I even buy them individually when I build my own spinnerbaits. But this is a chartreuse white 3/4 ounce spinnerbait, and I love to slow roll this spinnerbait as well. It runs true. It's easy to tune. And if you don't know how to tune a spinnerbait, if it's running kind of wonky or at an angle, then what you basically want to do is you want to look at it and make sure that blade is lined up with the hook. So you want, if you're slow rolling a spinnerbait, and at any time you want the spinnerbait running true. You want it running up and down, just like that. So, pre-spawn, slow roll time, up until they get on the bed. When they get on the bed, a lot of times I'll tailor it down a little bit, and I'll go back to a 1/4 ounce or 3/8 ounce spinnerbait, and maybe even in a white color or even in a perch color. And I love this when I get into the spawn and the post spawn. I love a double gold, and I like this particular Stanley spinnerbait. And I actually make my own that's pretty similar, and I use the wedge blades, but I like that golden brim color that they have a lot of times in the spawn and in the post spawn. And so, uh, that even goes into a shad spawn, so when the shad are spawning up there on the grass or they're spawning on bulkheads, on docks or whatever it might be, then, I'll go to a more shad colored spinnerbait. And a lot of times I'm fishing that fairly fast in there, and I'll go to more of a shad colored spinnerbait like this gunmetal, skirt right here. And usually I'll do a combination of gold and silver. But there is times when I'll just go, straight double gold, especially if the sun's coming up high. But, that tends to work very good early in the morning. The double gold when the conditions are more low light, and them shatter spawn, and I like the double gold. And then at times, if it's getting bright real early, I'll go with the silver gold combination, with a more grayish gunmetal skirt. So, um, and then coming into the summertime, I like to go back to a perch colored bait when them fish start moving out from the post spawn, moving on to the deeper flats, the deeper grass flats and stuff. Then I'll throw depending on what kind of water, depth of water is above the grass. If it's pretty deep, then I'll go with a tandem 3/4 ounce. And if it's kind of more shallow, where that grass is maybe 3 to 4 foot from the top, then I'll go with more of a perch colored double willow in the big 3/4 ounce size again, because them fish are coming off that post pond, fixing to head out to that deeper water, and a lot of times they like bigger spinner baits. And in the pre-spawn too is another time that I'll use a trailer, and especially if they're up there shallow, and I'm wanting to really slow down and throw it up there shallow around cypress trees or something like that, then I'll go with this 3.5-inch swammer, and I'll put it on the back, whatever color you like. I like to sometimes kind of make the color of the trailer and the color of the spinnerbait different, right? So I might have a darker trailer, on a um, tandem, willow and Colorado kicker, and I'll put that swammer on a white spinnerbait like this and throw it up there shallow in that pre-spawn, right when they move up and they're ready to spawn. So that's another killer trailer to use is the swammer or whatever kind of swim bait that you like to put on your spinnerbait. But I like that swammer; it's very good. And then there's times though, when that water gets dingy, that you want to go, or even, there's times when the fish move up and when we've had a lot of rain, or even in the bayou here on the Sabine River, I like to go with painted blades. So, I'll go with a combination. This happens to be the Stanley Spinnerbait Dirty Water combination right here, where I have an orange kicker and a chartreuse back blade. And so, I'll use that a lot, in a dirtier water situation, or even up, in some of the lakes that are inherently more dirty. So the water's more dirty. So that's just a little bit about spinnerbait fishing, and like I said, the trailers I do like when I slow roll. I was talking about slow rolling in the pre-spawn. I At times I won't use a trailer, but then there are times when I need that 3/4 ounce to maybe swim up a little higher. I'll use a split tail trailer. So I'll put a picture on the different trailers that I use, and I keep my fishing very simple, and I only really use 3 types of trailers. So the split tail, the single tail grub, and some sort of swim bait. And like I say, I'll get into a video where I show how I build my spinner baits. There's certain head designs that I like, that I prefer over others, and I'll give the information on where to buy these, and then I'll show how to build your own spinner baits. And what's neat about building your own spinner baits is you can make it just like you want. I mean, it's some of the old school variations that we had, like firecracker skirt, and like I like the fire tiger. You can hardly find fire tiger anymore. I like to build put my own skirt color variations on this. So depending on what I'm trying to match, whether it's shad or perch or what have you. So that's kind of my take on spinnerbait fishing, and the different times of year that I like to do it, and what I use at different times of year. You need to do your own experimenting with it. It's can be a complicated technique, but if you keep your fishing simple, then and keep it down where you're not buying a whole bunch of different kinds of baits, but get it down to what you can catch fish on, then it's going to save your pocketbook, and also it's going to fill your live well. This is Keeping It Real with Phil. Please subscribe so you can get my next tips, and I look forward to seeing you all next time. God bless.